In the sprawling neon cityscape of Neo-Tokyo, amidst the towering holograms and bustling life of a planet renowned as DeathWorld, Jax Taylor prepared for the most pivotal day of his career. His role as a guide for the upcoming intergalactic cultural exchange not only placed him at the forefront of Earth's representation but also at the heart of potential interstellar conflict or camaraderie. Jax, with his rugged demeanor and eyes reflecting years of navigating Earth's wildest terrains, met the arriving alien delegates at the spaceport. Among them, Zarek, a four-armed Gelarian, towered over the others, his skin shimmering with a natural metallic sheen that caught the city lights. Next to him fluttered Leah, of the winged seraphim, her delicate form a stark contrast to Zarek's robust physique. "Welcome to Earth, or as we affectionately call it, DeathWorld," Jax greeted with a wry smile. "I hope you've brought an adventurous spirit along with your diplomatic intentions." Zarek bared his teeth, which Jax hoped was a smile. "We've heard the stories, Jax Taylor. We are eager to see if they measure up to reality." Leah, hovering slightly, added, "And perhaps dispel some myths about our frailties, human." The group proceeded to the center of Neo-Tokyo, where the opening ceremony was to be held. The city was alive with representatives from various planets, each curious and cautious. The Earth government had decided that the cultural exchange would include the Gauntlet, an event devised not only to entertain but to test the mettle of all participants through a series of challenges across Earth's diverse and dangerous biomes. At the grand arena, filled with beings of all shapes and sizes, Jax took the stage. "Dear guests, we welcome you to test yourselves against our world. You've journeyed far to be here, so let's make it worthwhile. Let's see if you can handle the DeathWorld." The crowd erupted in a mixture of cheers and roars, some out of excitement, others from skepticism. As the applause died down, a hologram of the globe spun slowly above the arena, zones highlighted for the Gauntlet. "The Gauntlet will take you through the radioactive wastelands of the former Chernobyl, the depths of the Amazonia Prime, the frozen tundras of Neo-Siberia, and finally, the volcanic fields of New Pompeii," Jax announced, pointing at each zone on the hologram. Zarek stepped forward, his voice booming. "We accept your challenge, Earthman. May the best species win," Leah added with a graceful bow. "And may we all survive your DeathWorld." The next morning, as the first rays of the sun cut through the artificial atmosphere, Jax led the group to their first destination, the radioactive wastelands. Equipped with survival gear, the teams were a mix of nerves and excitement. Jax briefed them, his voice serious. "Remember, it's not just about physical strength. You'll need your wits about you. Earth isn't forgiving." As they approached the boundary of the wasteland, sensors in their suits buzzed to life, a grim reminder of the invisible dangers. Jax watched the alien participants adapt to the harsh environment, each using their unique abilities to navigate the terrain. Zarek's team used their extra limbs to clear debris and build makeshift shelters, while Leah and her team took to the air, scouting ahead. However, as they delved deeper, an unexpected storm brewed, lightning crackling in the radioactive clouds. Jax shouted over the roaring wind, "This is no ordinary storm. It's a plasma storm, common in this region but deadly." The teams scrambled for cover, the ground beneath them trembling as if the very earth was alive with energy. In the chaos, one of the alien delegates from a silicon-based planet stumbled, his form unable to handle the electric surges. Jax rushed to his side, dragging him into a shelter made from the debris. Inside, he administered a grounding gel to the delegate, who recovered slowly. "Thanks, human," the delegate rasped, his voice a grating of stone on stone. As the storm passed, the group emerged, shaken but alive. Jax checked on each team, his respect for their courage growing. "This planet teaches us to be humble," he said, his voice carrying the weight of experience. "It's about survival, but it's also about helping each other out. We're all part of this galaxy." The first day of the Gauntlet ended with the teams huddled around a campfire, the sky a tapestry of radioactive green and deep blue. Stories were exchanged, laughter mingled with the crackling of the fire, and for a moment, the dangers of DeathWorld seemed a distant threat. But as the fire died down, and the participants retired to their tents, Jax sat awake, gazing at the stars. The Gauntlet was more than a test of survival. It was a test of unity in the face of adversity. And tomorrow, the Amazonia Prime awaited, a jungle teeming with life and dangers alike, ready to test the limits of their newfound camaraderie. As the sun rose over the treacherous landscape of Amazonia Prime, Jax and his ensemble of intergalactic visitors stood on the edge of a jungle that hummed with life, its dangers veiled by lush greenery and the vibrant calls of unseen creatures. The second leg of the gauntlet was about to begin, and with it, the challenge intensified. Jax addressed the group, his voice firm yet encouraging. Yesterday, you all showed incredible resilience. Today, we delve into the heart of DeathWorld. Keep your sensors on and stick together. The flora and fauna here don't just exist, they dominate. The teams nodded, their faces set with determination. Zarek's forearms flexed in anticipation, while Leah adjusted her wing harness, preparing for the dense canopy above. They entered the jungle in formation, the air thick with moisture and buzzing insects. Not long into their trek, the path became obstructed by a massive fallen tree covered in luminescent fungi. Jax, leading the way, signaled for a pause. This tree hasn't fallen by accident, he explained. It's a trap set by the thorn-eaters. They're a plant species as predatory as any carnivore you might find on your planets. Zarek approached, his curiosity piqued. And how do you propose we bypass such a creature? Jax pulled out a small device, spraying a pheromone along the perimeter of the tree. Slowly, the branches retracted, clearing the path. On Earth, we've learned to coexist with our environment. Sometimes that means a little persuasion. The group proceeded, marveling at Jax's knowledge and the deceptive dangers of the jungle. Their sensors occasionally beeped, warning of toxic spores or the presence of predatory creatures lurking nearby. Suddenly, a sharp cry echoed through the trees. It was Leah, who had flown ahead and now found herself ensnared by a group of vine weavers, plant-like creatures that used their tendrils to trap and digest their prey. Her wings fluttered desperately as the vines tightened. Jax acted swiftly, slicing through the vines with a machete, his movements precise. Never underestimate the jungle, he cautioned, helping Leah to her feet. Leah, a bit shaken but unharmed, nodded in gratitude. I misjudged the freedom the sky would offer here. It seems even the air is a battlefield on DeathWorld. As they ventured deeper, the jungle seemed to press in on them, the sounds and smells overwhelming their senses. They reached a river, its waters dark and swift. Jax surveyed the riverbank, spotting the telltale signs of a flash-jaw ambush, submerged creatures known for their speed and ferocity. We'll need to cross here, but it won't be easy, Jax stated, pointing across the river to their checkpoint. Flash jaws are attracted to rapid movement. We'll use a decoy to draw them upstream, then cross quickly and quietly. Using a drone, Jax deployed a decoy several meters upstream. As predicted, the surface of the water erupted in a frenzy, allowing the team a brief window to cross. The operation was tense, each member acutely aware of the danger beneath their feet. Once safely across, they took a moment to regroup, the reality of their ordeal sinking in. Zarek looked around at his team, a mix of awe and respect in his eyes. Your planet is unforgiving, Jax. But your leadership, it gives us hope. Jax smiled, clapping Zarek on the shoulder. We're only halfway through today's journey. The real test is yet to come. The final challenge of the day was navigating a series of caves known to house the echo serpents, creatures that use sound to hunt. Jax handed out noise-canceling gear to each team member, instructing them to move in silence. The caves were dark and echoing, each step a potential signal to the lurking serpents. The group communicated through hand signals, a tense unity forming among them as they relied on each other's nonverbal cues to navigate the labyrinthine tunnels. Emerging from the caves as night began to fall, the teams were exhausted but exhilarated. They had faced some of Earth's deadliest creatures and survived. As they set up camp, the firelight reflected in their eyes, a bond forming in the shared adversity. Jax, looking around at the weary but smiling faces, knew that the gauntlet was more than a test of survival. It was a crucible for forging interstellar relationships. Tomorrow would bring the frozen tundras of Neo-Siberia, and with it, new challenges. but tonight they shared stories of their worlds, finding common ground in their diverse experiences. The jungle, with all its perils, had taught them not only about the dangers of Earth but also about their own strengths and the value of cooperation. As they drifted off to sleep to the sounds of the nocturnal jungle, there was a palpable sense of anticipation. Whatever tomorrow held, they would face it together, united by the trials of DeathWorld. As dawn broke over the frigid expanse of Neo-Siberia, the teams assembled, shivering beneath their thermal suits. The third day of the gauntlet had arrived, and it promised to test their endurance against the extreme cold and treacherous ice fields that lay ahead. Jax briefed the group, his breath visible in the icy air. "Today, we face the tundra. It's more than just cold, it's cunning. Watch for ice crevasses and be alert to the presence of ice stalkers. They blend into the landscape, nearly invisible until it's too late." The teams nodded, their faces set with a mix of determination and apprehension. They set off across the snowy terrain, their steps muffled by the thick snow, each crunch a reminder of the harsh conditions. As they traversed the icy expanse, the wind began to howl, turning the snow into a blinding storm. Visibility dropped, and the teams used ropes to stay connected. Jax took the lead, his figure a shadowy guide in the whiteout. Suddenly, a scream pierced the howl of the wind. It was from Zarek's team. They had strayed slightly off course and stumbled into a nest of ice stalkers. The creatures, resembling giant ice-sculpted spiders, swarmed around them, their movements quick and deadly. Jax reacted instantly, throwing a thermal grenade into the midst of the creatures. The explosion of heat stunned the ice stalkers, allowing the team to regroup and fight back. Using their thermal blasters, they dispatched the creatures, their bodies melting into the snow. Once the threat was neutralized, Jax regrouped with Zarek, checking for injuries. "You okay?" Jax asked, his voice tense but calm. Zarek, catching his breath, nodded. "Yes, thanks to you. These creatures, they are like nothing we've faced before." "That's the tundra for you," Jax replied. "It hides its killers in plain sight." The teams continued, more cautiously now, their senses heightened to every movement around them. They reached a wide chasm, the other side barely visible through the storm. Jax surveyed the chasm, then turned to the group. "We'll need to cross here. I'll secure the lines. Once I signal, one at a time, you'll zip across." One by one, the team members attached themselves to the zip line and hurled themselves over the gaping chasm. The wind buffeted them as they crossed, but the line held firm. However, as Leah prepared to cross, the anchor holding the zip line on the far side began to give way, the ice around it cracking. Jax, on the other side, noticed it immediately. "Hold on, Leah!" he shouted. He quickly secured a second anchor and gestured for her to cross. With the wind screaming around her, Leah launched herself across the chasm. Midway, the original anchor gave way, but the second held, and she landed safely, her relief evident. The crisis averted, the teams pressed on, reaching the safety of a geothermal cave system where they could shelter from the storm. Inside, the natural heat from the earth warmed them, and they set up a temporary camp. As they rested, Jax addressed the group, his voice echoing slightly in the cave. "Today you all showed incredible courage. This planet, it tests us, pushes us to our limits. But look around, here we are, together, surviving." The group nodded, their spirits lifted by Jax's words. They shared their own stories of survival from their planets, finding common themes of resilience and adaptability. Zarek spoke up, his voice thoughtful. "Jax, your planet is harsh, but it teaches valuable lessons. I see now why you humans are so resilient." Jax smiled, the warmth of the cave a stark contrast to the cold outside. "We learn from every challenge, every trial. That's what makes us strong." As they settled in for the night, the storm outside continuing to rage, there was a sense of camaraderie that transcended their different origins. They had faced the dangers of Neo-Siberia together, and they had prevailed. Tomorrow would bring them to the volcanic fields of New Pompeii, the final and most dangerous leg of the gauntlet. But for now, they rested, united in their shared journey, each participant silently contemplating the fiery trials that awaited them, knowing that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, as a team forged in the icy trials of DeathWorld's tundra. The ground trembled beneath their feet as Jax and the alien teams stood at the edge of the final challenge. New Pompeii, the volcanic fields where molten rivers cut through jagged rock and the air carried the constant scent of sulfur and scorched earth. The final test of the gauntlet was here, and survival would demand everything they had learned so far. Jax turned to the group, his voice steady but urgent. "This is it. The last leg. You've survived the wastelands, the jungle, the tundra. Now you face fire. Heat exhaustion, unstable ground, and lava flows are just the beginning. Stay sharp, and we walk out of here victorious." Zarek cracked his knuckles, his metallic skin reflecting the glow of the lava. "We do not back down now, human." Leah adjusted the heat-resistant coating on her wings. "Let's finish this together." They moved forward, stepping onto the blackened rock that shifted unpredictably beneath their feet. The heat was suffocating, every breath like inhaling fire. Jax led the way, scanning the terrain for paths that wouldn't crumble under them. Molten geysers erupted without warning, forcing them to move in quick bursts, dodging the sprays of liquid rock. A deep rumbling from below sent a shiver through the ground. Jax stopped, signaling the team to freeze. "That's not good. Something's shifting underneath us." Before anyone could react, the ground split open, a fissure forming beneath their feet. The crack widened, separating the group. Zarek and his team barely managed to jump back, landing on the unstable ledge opposite Jax, while Leah hovered just above the chasm. "We're cut off!" Zarek shouted. Jax's mind raced. The fissure was growing, widening with each passing second. They had to act fast. "Leah, you need to ferry them across." Leah hesitated, the heat warping the air around her. "The updrafts are too strong. If I lose control, we all go down." Zarek clenched his fists. "There must be another way." Jax scanned the landscape. There was no time for debate. He spotted a jagged rock arch stretching across the chasm. It was unstable, but it was their only shot. "We're climbing. Move fast and don't stop. That rock won't hold for long." One by one, they scrambled up the edge, hands burning against the heated surface. Jax reached back, helping the last of the team as the rock groaned beneath them. The second they made it across, the arch crumbled, crashing into the lava below. Jax exhaled sharply. No turning back now. They pressed forward, but the path was narrowing, forcing them closer to the molten flows. The heat was unbearable. One wrong step, and they'd be swallowed by the fire. Then, a roar split the air. Jax's stomach dropped. He had hoped they wouldn't encounter one, but DeathWorld had other plans. A lava WYRM. The beast slithered out of a crevice, its scales glowing with the heat of molten rock. It was massive, a predator born from the planet's most extreme environment, and it had locked onto them. Leah's eyes widened. "What is that?" Jax didn't hesitate. "A problem. Move!" The lava WYRM lunged, its gaping maw dripping with molten drool. The group scattered as the creature crashed down where they had just stood, the impact sending shockwaves through the ground. Zarek roared, standing his ground. "We fight!" Jax grabbed his arm. "No. We run." Zarek hesitated, then nodded. They sprinted, the WYRM in pursuit, its body carving a path of destruction behind them. Jax's mind worked frantically. They couldn't outrun it forever. "Leah, we need air support." Leah, struggling against the intense updrafts, fought for control. "I can distract it, but not for long." Jax made a split-second decision. "Get its attention. We lead it to the geysers." Leah took off, weaving through the air, drawing the WYRM's gaze. It roared, snapping at her, but she was too fast. Below, Jax and the others raced toward the volatile geyser fields. "Get ready!" Jax shouted. Leah led the WYRM directly over the geysers. As it lunged for her, the ground beneath it erupted. A blast of superheated steam shot into the sky, engulfing the beast. The WYRM shrieked, its molten body destabilizing as the sudden temperature shift cracked its scales. It thrashed violently before retreating into the lava, disappearing beneath the surface. The group stood panting, staring at the steaming battlefield. Zarek grinned, breathing heavily. I take back my doubts, human. You are as cunning as your world. Jack smirked, wiping sweat from his brow. Survival is about using what's around you. And right now, what's around us is a way out. The final checkpoint was in sight, a transport waiting to extract them from the Hell's Cape. They broke into a run, the last stretch the hardest as exhaustion pulled at their limbs. The ground quaked again, but this time, they didn't stop. They sprinted through the final burst of heat, lungs burning, and crossed the finish line together. The alarms blared. The gauntlet was complete. Cheers erupted from the distant spectators, their voices carried through the calms. They had done it. Leah collapsed to her knees, panting. That was insane! Zarek pounded Jax on the back, his laughter booming. Your planet is madness, but I respect it. Jax grinned. You survived DeathWorld. Not bad for a bunch of aliens. As they were extracted, the realization settled in. They had conquered Earth's deadliest landscapes, not as competitors, but as a united force. The gauntlet had forged something greater than survival. It had built trust. As the ship lifted off, carrying them away from the fire below, Jax looked at his new allies and knew one thing for certain. This was just the beginning. The ship's engines hummed as they soared above the volcanic wasteland, the inferno of New Pompeii shrinking behind them. Inside the cabin, the air was thick with exhaustion, relief, and something deeper, an understanding that had not existed when they first set foot on DeathWorld. Jax leaned back, letting the cold recycled air cool his sweat-drenched skin. Across from him, Zarek wiped the soot from his metallic arms, his expression unreadable. Leah sat near the viewport, her wings trembling slightly, the after-effects of the updraft still lingering. The others, silent for the first time in days, processed the reality of what they had just endured. Zarek finally broke the silence. I have fought in wars, Jax Taylor. I have conquered enemies. But this? He gestured vaguely, as if words failed him. Your world does not fight with weapons or armies. It fights with itself. And you thrive in it. Jax smirked, rubbing a fresh burn on his forearm. Adapt and survive. That's the human way. Leah exhaled, her voice softer than usual. I thought I understood danger. I thought my kind, with our agility and speed, were above such struggles. But here, speed doesn't matter if the ground itself wants you dead. Jack studied her, noting the raw honesty in her words. Earth doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care who you are, what technology you have, or what wars you've fought. It just is. And if you can't keep up, it leaves you behind. One of the delegates, a reptilian creature with iridescent scales, shifted in his seat. Why do you stay? His slitted eyes narrowed. With all of your advancements, you could leave this world behind. Find a new home, one less hostile. Jax laughed, the sound dry and knowing. And go where? Some sterile utopia where everything is easy. No, thanks. This planet made us who we are. Without the struggle, we're nothing. Zarek grunted, considering the words. Strength through suffering. He nodded. I see now why your species is feared and respected in equal measure. The ship's calm buzzed, and a voice crackled through the speakers. Touchdown in 10 minutes. Earth welcomes you back. The cabin filled with a quiet tension. The challenge was over, but the real test was only beginning. They had survived the gauntlet, but what they had gained from it. Jax could see it in their eyes, the shift, the realization. They had come to DeathWorld expecting a spectacle. Instead, they had been humbled. As the ship descended into Neo-Tokyo's glowing skyline, Jax watched the city grow larger, its lights reflecting against the midnight sky. The world moved on as if nothing had happened, oblivious to the life-changing battle waged in its deadliest corners. The moment they stepped off the ship, a wave of reporters and officials swarmed forward. Cameras flashed, voices overlapped, and the air buzzed with excitement. A high-ranking Earth official stepped forward, his suit crisp, his smile polished. On behalf of the United Earth Federation, we congratulate you on completing the gauntlet. Your resilience has shown the galaxy what it truly means to endure. Zarek squared his shoulders. It was an experience, he admitted. One I will not soon forget. Leah, still processing, turned to Jax. What happens now? Jax shrugged, scanning the crowd. You go home. You tell your people what you've seen. You decide if you still think humans are just another species in the galactic roster, or if you understand why we are the way we are. The reptilian delegate hissed in thought. Many will not believe. Then let them come, Jax said simply. Let them try. A murmur spread through the crowd as a reporter called out. Mr. Taylor! Do you believe this event has strengthened relations between Earth and the galactic community? Jax took a slow breath, then nodded. Survival is universal. Fear is universal. But so is respect. They came to DeathWorld as outsiders. They leave as something more. Zarek extended one of his massive hands. Brothers in struggle. Jax grasped it firmly. Something like that. Leah gave a small smile, her wings shifting. I never thought I'd say this, but I'd come back. Jax chuckled. You ever want another round, you know where to find me. As the delegates moved toward their awaiting transports, Jax lingered, watching them go. They had faced Earth and lived. But more than that, they had changed. And so had he. DeathWorld had left its mark on them all.